Jenner, experts in bladder weakness and incontinence for over 40 years.
It's not something we all think about, but it's a fact of life. We start life helpless and dependent on the care of our loved ones for food, warmth, love, and security. Sometimes it's also how we exit this world. Today we are taking a look at a topic that might very well affect each and every one of us: caregiving for adults.
With an estimated 7.7% of the population over the age of 60 years, caring for elderly parents or other relatives is a daily reality for millions of South Africans.
Caregiving is the care required by a person who's either disabled or post-operatively or bedridden, either at home or in a facility, and it can range from a number of duties to just a few hours a day to full 24-hour care. The main components of caregiving may be divided into physical and psychological. Physical may include general personal hygiene, general household duties and chores, and driving the patient or the client to the doctor. Your psychological components are more companionship, encouraging, motivating, especially the elderly alone at home.
Many of the conditions which require the help of a caregiver also result in urinary incontinence. While bladder weakness has a significant impact on the sufferer's quality of life, it also impacts their caregiver as well.
To find out more about how exactly caregiving might impact our lives, we have social worker and caregiving expert Lindy Smith from Aged Care in studio today. Welcome, Lindy, to Doctor's Orders.
It's nice to be here.
Could you tell us what are the most common conditions under which people seek help with their elderly parents or relatives?
There are a whole range of conditions that people, as they get older, might need more help. For example, if they have Parkinson's disease, if they've maybe had a stroke. My focus is primarily working with elderly people with dementia, and that's obviously one of the areas where they really do need assistance.
How do they usually require assistance?
Sometimes it starts off that they get lonely, they're not able to get out as often. They need somebody to help them go to the shops, to cook their meals. So normally, you don't normally go straight into 24-hour care, you gradually build it up.
Yes.
So they'll start, and they might need help with bathing, dressing, the daily activities of living. And then, depending on their physical needs, they might require more and more nursing care as well.
So there must be a lot of guilt associated sometimes with maybe not looking after your parents.
Yeah.
I assume maybe that's my cultural bias coming in.
No, it can be, but it's also it's from the other side as well. A lot of elderly people find it really difficult to ask for help as well.
Yeah.
And often families make promises to elderly people, you know, I'll never ever put you in a facility.
Yes.
And then they can't cope, and that's once again where that guilt comes out as well.
They may end up being happier as well.
Yeah. Often I have to place an elderly person because I'm actually more worried about the caregiver and what's happening to the caregiver. And if the caregiver is in a bad state, that's going to affect the care that they're giving their relative. And the same way even for professional carers, if they're burnt out, you know, that's when we have to be aware of the risk of elder abuse and things like that. So to provide good care at home, you actually have to have more than one caregiver so that you have a rotation. And families don't often realize that, nor can they often afford that either. But sometimes it is actually in the best interests for the family and for the older person as well.
Thank you for joining us on Doctor's Orders. We spoke to a South African family currently working with caregivers to get their perspective.
Incontinence is the second biggest reason after dementia why families are making the decision to place their elderly in long-term care facilities.
Well, my mom had a car accident and never really recovered from that emotionally. And we realized then that she was not able to be on her own for continuous periods. So we realized that we needed to employ people to care for her. It started off as, well, let's just put people in place. And then we realized that we needed to have somebody there all the time. She couldn't be on her own even for one night. There is a huge need for caregivers. And I think that if there were more centers that were set up where people could be trained, because there's huge unemployment in our country and there's a lot of people with huge hearts. And there could be an amazing training center because there's such a need for this kind of caring where you are actually just with somebody. But it really is basic companionship.
Teenagers and children normally shy away from unwell or aging family members, but Gillian's daughter participates in caring for her grandmother.
She loves listening to music, and when we go and visit her, Georgia always makes sure that she takes her violin with, and she'll entertain Granny by playing her violin, and she does like a little performance and she makes a big thing out of it, and my mum just absolutely loves that. It's fantastic for her, and that's what I think is so important about caring. You don't really have to do a hell of a lot, you just have to be there in support of her.
How you care for a family member will depend on their level of physical mobility and the state of their mental health, which must be considered.
My advice would be that you get professional help to analyze exactly what situation you're dealing with and try and work out what kind of care is needed in that situation, and that be very conscious of the deterioration and the path that you're going to travel, because you don't quite understand where it's going to lead to, and that's where professional help can give you advice.
Seek professional help by consulting your GP or pharmacist on home caregiving solutions. You can call the Tenor Consumer Care Line on 0860 673 377 or order a free sample at tenor.co.za. Tenor, experts in bladder weakness and incontinence for over 40 years.